Hey guys, welcome to Actualol. I'm soon going to be heading off to Spiel 17, the biggest board game convention in Europe, in Essen, Germany. And there are 1,000 new games coming out at Essen this year, and I've looked at all of them. I've read the description of every single one. I've skim-read so many rulebooks, and have tried to whittle down my wish list. It's a lot bigger than 20, but these are the top 20 most anticipated games at Essen for me this year. If you'd like to help Actualol grow bigger and better, head over to patreon.com/Actualol to give your support. Now, John, I know you're going to Germany for this board game convention. So presumably you've got it into your head to pull out the blonde wig, Amazon Prime some lederhosen, and condense centuries of history and culture into one silly character.
Thanks.
Not a compliment. John, you're a learned man. You went to an Oxbridge University. You went to a Russell Group University. You went to a university, right?
They do insist on calling it that.
I don't need to tell you that Brexit negotiations are on a knife edge, and Germany hold all the cards.
Well, they do like board games.
Our country is on life support, and the Germans have their hand on the power cable. And you joke.
Well, what do you want me to do?
It's what I want you to not do. You're right, Germans love board games. And you never know, some of these politicians, these EU negotiators, they might have IT support staff that play games. I'm asking you not as your CEO or your friend, which I'm not, but as a wealthy businessman. Don't balls this up. And number 20 is Feelinks from Actin Games. And this is a party game where you're discussing emotions with each other. The game asks you a question such as, your child tells you they have prophetic dreams, and you have to pick a feeling. Are you proud, satisfaction, angry, mistrust, disgust? But you also have to pick how your partner in the game feels about that. So it's a game that promotes discussion with your friends. You're having to talk about interesting topics, and you're having to see how well you understand your friends or your family. Because the game comes with 3 different decks. You can play it in schools as a sort of educational tool to help kids talk about their feelings, but you can play it with your family and you can play it with your friends. I think the game's going to come down to how good those questions are and how much it promotes discussion and how much you feel like you know about your friends or you're surprised by their answers. I'm intrigued by that. It sounds a bit like That's a Question coming from CGE. It's co-designed by the designer of Dixit, who doesn't have many games other than Dixit in his back catalogue. So I'm certainly intrigued by that because Dixit's obviously a smash hit of a party game. And number 19 is Decrypto from Le Scorpion Masqué. And this is a demo only. It would be a lot higher up the list if it was available at Essen. This is a party game where you're playing in teams and you're trying to communicate to your team a certain code number. You've both got these little interfaces which have cards slotted into them, and they have 4 words on them. So they connect to 1, 2, 3, and 4, and they're just simple things like tree and child, something like that. And every round you take it in turns to communicate to your team a code number. So it's just going to be a card that tells you an order to communicate those words in. So it could be 1, 3, 4, 4, 1, 2, etc. You have to then communicate them without saying the words, that series. So if it was apple, tree, child, you might say cider, oak, kid, but that would be giving it away way too much because the other team are listening in to every code that you give. And they are building up this knowledge about what your words might be. And if they guess them, then I believe that's how you win the game, is by guessing the opponent's code words. So you're always playing with the same words and having to use different numbers. So you have to give enough of a clue so that your team understands which order these words are in, but you can't give it away too much or otherwise the other team will win. It has a really nice look to it, and it comes with these really cool interfaces that have these plastic shields so that the cards, you can't see the words on the cards until you slot them into this device. It's very low tech, it's kind of like a kid's thing, but it just works really nicely. So I'm super excited to try this one out, and I don't know when it's out, but I'll be first in line to pick it up. That's Decrypto. You're an ambassador for the UK. You have to embrace their culture. Your diet will be bratwurst pretzel, bratwurst pretzel. Nothing else.
Well, I need to eat vegetables.
Fine, potatoes. but they have to be fried. If you want more plants in your diet, just drink their hoppiest beer. I trust you've learned the language.
Ja, die Siedler von Catan, Entwicklung, Kakerlakensuppe, Basari das Kartenspiel.
Good. And this top 20 list you're doing, the games are all from German designers, right?
They're actually mostly French.
French? French? There is no greater insult. Do you like being able to afford the price of food, John? How about Scotland? Do you like Scotland? Because it will leave. This is bigger than you. Fall in line.
And number 18 is Divinity Derby from Ares Games. And this is a racing/betting game. I'm not always into racing games, but as soon as you introduce betting into that equation, that's where I'm on board. Games like Camel Up and Horse Fever I really enjoy. One of the reasons I'm intrigued about this is it's from Carlo Rossi. Now, he designed Picassimo last year, which is a family drawing game, great game, completely different to this. But he also in the past has done a game called Haben Gut, which is a stock trading game that I've never had a chance to play, but always been intrigued by because it has a shared hand of cards with your neighbor, so you can see what they might play. And the same thing is in Divinity Derby. So they are racing a certain person in this race, and you can see what cards they might be able to play. So do you bet on them for that reason? Because they might play the cards that you want to play. I don't know too much more about it than that, but that just sounds really interesting. And any betting racing game I'm certainly intrigued by, so I can't wait to try out Divinity Derby. And number 17 is Untold Adventures Await from the Creativity Hub. And they're the people that brought us Rory Story Cubes. And this is a light family weight RPG/storytelling game that uses them for the inspiration of your story. This is a game that I already got to play at UK Games Expo and was one of my favorite games of that convention because it's such a simple system, so easy to learn, and yet it creates rich stories. You are heroes working cooperatively to defeat an enemy of some kind, and you're creating that story. It creates an arc for you with these story tiles, and you're rolling those dice and using the faces to inspire you for your characters and for the things that happen in the game. And I just really like that system. It brings a lot of laughter and it tells a great story. The reason it isn't higher up the list for me is simply that I've struggled to find the right group for it. I don't think it's going to work for every board game. You've got to be into role-playing games or storytelling games. And so it's more of a personal thing for me rather than it being a bad game or anything. I really want to play it again and enjoy it like I did at Games Expo. I can't wait for that to happen again. I'm just not sure when that's going to be. So I'm still super excited about it. That's Untold Adventures Await.
And no German accents. You have to stop doing characters with accents.
Hello, I'm Peter from Inside the Box Board Games.
Who on earth is that?
He just sort of turned up. He thinks he runs a board game company.
I'm Peter from Inside the Box Board Games. I love board games, me.
Oh, very good. So that's why you're in a box. Very funny.
What do you mean?
The box. You're inside a box.
But this is me home. Do you want to buy a board game? A team of adventurers are trapped in a cave. One brave leader, known only as Peter, ventures into the darkness.
Peter, haven't you got some games that need publishing or something?
Okay.
And number 16 is Liberatores from Hawaii Ideas. And this is a social deduction game with 3 factions. One person is trying to keep Caesar alive. A big group is Republicans trying to kill Caesar, but they don't want to help too much the competitor who also wants to kill Caesar but wants to become the next dictator. If they get too many points, then they will. So there are 3 factions, and you're forced at times to do actions that will help the other teams to create this balance. You don't want to let one team swing too far in a direction, and that will help create mystery about which faction people are on. Always intrigued by a new twist on social deduction games. This one sounds really cool. It's got some nice artwork too. That's Liberatores. And number 15 is Muse from Quick Simple Fun Games. And this game immediately looks like Dixit because it has a deck of wonderfully illustrated cards. But in this game, you're playing cooperatively. You're having to describe one of these cards to your teammates, but you're doing it within certain parameters. There's another deck of inspiration cards, and they're telling you how to describe the artwork cards. So For example, you have to describe it by using a building or monument, a famous building. And of course, these cards look nothing like a famous building. So it's how do you decide that? It's going to be a real challenge. And that's what intrigues me, that challenge of it reminds me of games I love like Concept or even Codenames or Word Slam. I love that challenge of trying to communicate to my teammates. And apparently it can also be played in teams with bigger groups. It has wonderful artwork. I can't wait to try out Muse.
John, what's this Patreon money on the company accounts?
It's crowdfunding. People donate money to support YouTubers they like.
Right. So which YouTuber do they think they're giving their money to?
Me, for Actualol.
I'm not following. People give money
Yeah.
to you
Yeah.
to encourage you to make more videos?
Exactly.
Well, that can't be right. Are you threatening them?
And number 14 is Cutthroat Kingdoms from AEG. And this is a negotiation card game that seems to be heavily inspired by Game of Thrones. And that's what's got me intrigued here. Because I love the idea of playing as medieval kings and queens. And you're getting to assassinate people and create alliances and backstab people. And at the end of the game, there's a feast where you can try and poison other players. What I'm really interested about the game is this mechanism where you can marry another player and win the game together. I love negotiation games. I'm intrigued by the theme, but sometimes these types of games can be hard to pull off, and I'm just excited to see whether they've pulled it off or not. That's Cutthroat Kingdoms. And number 13 is Doodle Rush from Brain Games. And this is a speed drawing game where you have multiple whiteboards, you've got many words to draw, and you are deciding how quickly to draw them. Everyone's doing it at the same time, racing against a timer, and you're like quickly drawing, going on to the next whiteboard. And then there's a speed guessing round where you're trying to get other people to guess your words. So all of the drawings are going to be really simplistic and impossible to understand. And so it's how much time to invest in each separate drawing. Will they be able to guess it? This is designed by Adam Porter, who's one of my favorite board game YouTubers. You should absolutely check out his channel. He does really interesting vlogs from the point of view of a designer. He talks about game mechanism stuff. I love drawing games as it is. It seems a little bit similar to Pictomania, but hopefully with less complicated rules. There's actually another game coming out at Essen, which is a speed drawing game called Scribble Time. And in that game, I understand that you have to draw 20 drawings in 20 seconds or something crazy. I want to try out both of them, but I'm most intrigued by Doodle Rush.
Well, wherever this money is coming from, it's a nice token gesture, but it's not going to keep Sebastian in boarding school.
You have a son?
Not during term time, no. But come 18, little Basti Darras will be my meal ticket. Got our fingers crossed for a royal match with little Prince George.
And number 12 is Indian Summer from Spielwiese Editions. And this is the next game in the puzzle trilogy from Uwe Rosenberg. Last year he brought out Cottage Garden, which is a game about building flower beds. And this year we've still got the Tetris style pieces, these polyominoes, and you're building forest floors. It's got this beautiful artwork with autumn leaves on it. The interesting twist this time is that the tiles have holes in them, so you can see through to the floor below. I guess you're trying to line them up with certain places to score points. And this game appeals to more experienced gamers. For me, Cottage Garden was nice, but it wasn't quite there. It wasn't as exciting to me as Patchwork. So I love the puzzling of the Tetris-style pieces, but I am looking for a more involved game than Cottage Garden, and I'm hoping that Indian Summer is it. And number 11 is Rescue Polar Bears, Data and Temperature. And this is from Taiwan Board Game Design, which is a group of publishers bringing a whole bunch of games to Essen, a load of which I'm excited about, but this is the one I'm most excited about. You play as scientists at the North Pole cooperatively, and you're trying to rescue polar bears, but you're also trying to get scientific data to send back to your government to convince them to take action on climate change. That is a really interesting theme to me, but it's also just unique. It's not fantasy and sci-fi. And I love a good cooperative game. There's not that many games at Essen this year that sound that interesting that are cooperative. And so that makes me interested. It's also got these really cute polar bear meeples. And so if the gameplay is right, then I love the theme. And I love a cooperative game. That's Rescue Polar Bears, Data and Temperature.
The real money is in all these paid reviews you've been doing.
What? I haven't. I don't do paid reviews.
Don't say that publicly. You don't want to give them a soundbite that they can use against you.
I can say it because I don't do it.
Yeah, I guess strictly speaking, I take the money, so you don't get paid for the reviews.
What?
Other channels just charge for a review. I found you make a lot more money if you charge for a positive review.
But how can you be taking money for positive reviews when you haven't even told me which games I'm supposed to be reviewing positively?
Easy, I only take money for party games in any game with a timer in it. Guarantee you'll insist on being the first to rave about it, as if the whole world is queuing up to hear you talk about the fundamental joy that all humans derive from sand timers.
That does sound like me. And number 10 is Dream Home 156 Sunny Street from Rebel and Asmodee. Dream Home came out last year at Essen, and this is a gateway game that I really loved about building your dream home. And what I was looking for in an expansion was something that just made it a little bit more interesting, that means that you can still play it as a gateway game, but it's still exciting for us as experienced gamers. And I think they've done it I played it for the first time last night, and it brings in these hidden objectives. So it might tell you to create two bedrooms on the second floor. So it means that you're really fighting for stuff. You're trying to get certain cards to get those extra points. There's also these public objectives, which are these friends that can come over to your house and they want certain rooms in certain places. And I think that's really nice because it gives you something to compete with, and it has a really nice thematic feel to the different friends and family that want to come visit. It also means you can play the game with 5 and 6 players, and they've thrown in some new rooms and some new tools and stuff. I think it does what I wanted the game to do, make it that little bit more interesting. So I'm excited to keep playing Dream Home 156 Sunny Street. And number 9 is Nemesis from Rebel and Awaken Realms. And this is a game that's only being demoed at Essen. It's going to be on Kickstarter, I believe, later this year. And it's a game that was actually showed at Essen a bit last year, and I was excited about it then because it's a cooperative or semi-cooperative game. You're on a spaceship. You've woken up from hibernation and something's wrong with the ship. You've got to fix it if you're going to get home. Also, one person is dead and you're not entirely sure who's killed them. It's a game with hidden objectives, a bit like Dead of Winter. You're all trying to achieve different things, but you have to work together. And I believe there's a secret traitor style thing, so it's making me think of Battlestar Galactica. This is clearly a rich thematic game. I would imagine a sort of Ameritrash type game. It's also going to have some cool miniatures. Awaken Realms are the company that made This War of Mine, which is a really rich storytelling game that was on Kickstarter. And they've been working on this one for years. It's got some nice looking artwork as well. I just love the idea of the theme, and I love the idea of those big epic games like Dead of Winter and Battlestar Galactica. And if it's one of those, then I'm totally on board. Can't wait to try out Nemesis. Look, we can't be taking money. It damages my credibility as a reviewer.
Ugh, Joe Alabama from Michigan, Missouri doesn't care about your credibility. He just wants to hear you say deck builder again in that accent of yours.
But it's unethical.
But what are ethics, really? It's probably unethical to have a sweatshop of Reddit upvoters in Cornwall.
Yes, it is.
Well, I guess I'm unethical then.
You're not just unethical, you're morally bankrupt.
But that won't affect my share price, will it?
And number 8 is Café Fatale from Zoc Verlag. This is a simple dice game with a really nice theme. I love the idea of waiting tables. It's got some really nice artwork. But the thing that really intrigues me about this game is that it seems like it's inspired by Las Vegas. So if you like Las Vegas, one of my favorite dice games, then you should probably check out Café Fatale. You're rolling all of your dice and you're placing one of the numbers that you've just rolled onto tables at this restaurant. You're trying to win cheese and cake and pizza, and you're doing that by trying to have more dice on these tables than your opponents. It's not exactly like Las Vegas because on your next turn when you roll your dice, you can only place on adjacent tables. And so there's interesting rules there, but you're trying to outbid effectively other players, but you're still going to be hamstrung by the dice that you roll. It seems to have really simple rules and it's got a really nice look to it. Can't wait to try out Café Fatale. And number 7 is Meeple Circus from Matago. This is a dexterity game where you're creating circus acts, you're stacking up elephants and donkeys and acrobats and planks of wood, and you're doing it all against a timer. But the interesting thing about this game is that there's a puzzle aspect to it. There are different ways to get points, and that's going to change each game. So you might get points for having certain pieces touching or balancing them in a certain way. So you could create your stack in 30 seconds, then realize there's a better way to get points. Of course, you try to do that, it can sometimes be impossible, and then your stack falls down and you end up with nothing. So it's got that humor to it, but there's a thinkiness to it, and I like that. It's different to your average dexterity game. I don't feel like, because the pieces are so small, I don't think it's quite as dramatic and exciting as something like Junkart, but I like that it has this puzzle where it reminds me of games like Uluru and Dimension, where adjacencies and stuff, there's more thought to it than your average dexterity game. We've actually done a Let's Play of this with Shut Up and Sit Down and No Pun Included, so that will be on the internet soon. Definitely a fun game. That's Meeple Circus.
You can't pay people to upvote my videos.
I'm not paying all of them, some are doing it for the exposure.
But what if they catch you?
Oh, don't worry about the moderators. I buttered them all up by sending them one of those body pillows with a Japanese schoolgirl on them. You've got to know how to speak these people's language.
And number 6 is Mountains of Madness from Yellow. This is designed by Rob Davio, and it's a party cooperative game where you're explorers, you're trying to explore this mountain, but you are all going to go mad, and it has a deck of madness cards that force you to communicate in certain ways that are going to make it really hard to cooperate as a group. So there's a card that will tell you that you can't stop talking. There's a card that tells you that you can't use verbs. There's a card that tells you can only communicate to with the player on your right. And I love games like that change that social dynamic. Any game that plays with communication, I'm completely intrigued. I don't really know how the rest of the game works. It doesn't matter to me because that is the reason I want to try the game. I think it will create some really funny moments. That's Mountains of Madness. Number 5 is Photosynthesis from Blue Orange Games. This is a simple abstract game, and I'm always interested in those because I'm always looking for the next great couples game. But what I like about this is the thematic ideas that it brings. You're planting trees, and bigger trees can shadow smaller trees so they don't grow, and the position of the sun is important. It's got a really beautiful look to it, and it's also had some hype already, some good reviews. I just like that it's simple rules. That's all I'm really looking for, and I can't wait to try it out. That's Photosynthesis.
Hello, Rufus Darrington Esquire speaking. Hi. Yes, of course he likes Munchkin. My Little Pony edition. Perfect. For £1,000 he'll actually love it. It's just a portmanteau of actually and love. Yes, it's complete nonsense. It's just his favourite film backwards.
I'm not doing it.
John, I need this money for Basti's speech therapist. His accent hasn't recovered since he spent an entire week in Essex.
Hang up the phone.
Sorry, I'm going to have to go. There's someone here committing an act of treason against a future King of England.
And number 4 is MS Batory from Grana, and this is from designer Philip Malunsky, who designed CV, which I love, and last year's surprise Essen gem Capital, so I'm definitely interested in any game that he makes. And this is a murder mystery on a boat, which is a theme that I love. It's, I believe, on a cruise ship, and it comes with a 3D cruise ship in the game, so that is in itself exciting. I've always wanted a great murder mystery game. To me, that I always want games that feel cinematic, and that's a great genre of movie, and yet the games that I've played haven't quite hit the spot for me. I mean, it's effectively like wanting a modern Cluedo, and Mystery of the Abbey is a game like that I enjoy. I just don't think it's quite there. And then I've played games like Mystery Express and 27th Passenger, and I just haven't found the game that I want yet. So I'm really hoping that this is it. It's from a design that I love. I understand that you are asking questions like in Mystery of the Abbey, but you can only ask about the traits that you have cards of. I don't know too much more than that, but the theme, the designer, and the 3D board has got me hooked. That's MS Batory. And number 3 is Kitchen Rush from Artipia Games. This is a game about running a restaurant together. It's a cooperative real-time game and it has that hectic feel. The way you are doing any actions is by using sand timers. They're your workers and you'll place them on a spot. You can't move them again until they've done it, until their sands run out. So you're buying ingredients, preparing them, you're putting stuff in the oven, you're waiting tables, you're bringing in new customers. There's so much stuff to do and you're getting each other's way and you're knocking over sand timers. And I love that hectic feel of it. I love the theme. I already got to play this game at UK Games Expo and I really enjoyed it. And it was on Kickstarter and now it's out for proper at Essen. So absolutely super excited about Kitchen Rush.
John, do you want to review my game?
No.
The year is 2035. Ooh, we live in a technological dystopia. Ah, one maverick dissident, known only as Peter, fights corruption.
Peter, you're not a board game publisher.
I am too. I made 300 grand on Kickstarter.
No, you didn't.
And number 2 is Fog of Love from Hush Hush Projects. This is a game that I backed on Kickstarter a while ago now because I was so excited about the theme. They call it a romantic comedy in a board game. I love romantic comedies, but I love the idea of playing through a relationship, this personal thing in a board game. You each have different objectives. So imagine kind of like Dead of Winter, you have things that you want from this relationship. They have other things. They might combine, they might not. And then there are story moments in the game, a bit like Crossroads cards from Dead of Winter, where events will take place and you have to make a decision and they will have different outcomes on your relationship. And it might help you positively, might help them negatively. And so there's some cooperation, but ultimately you're still trying to get what you want. I love the idea of a thematically rich two-player game, but also just the theme has completely got me. So if the gameplay mechanisms work and it really evokes every time you play a different relationship, you want different things and it creates a story. Do you end up together? Do you break up? I love that. I'm totally sold on this game. That's Fog of Love. And number 1 is A Tale of Pirates from Cranio Creations. And there are so many things that excite me about this game. It's another real-time cooperative game using sand timers, and it has a 3D board. You are pirates on a pirate ship, and if it can capture that feel of shouting at each other across the ship, they're firing across the starboard bow, then I'm sold on that. The designers, the Danish guys, Daniel and Asger, they designed 13 Days, which is a game that I love, so I trust them. It comes with an app with 10 different scenarios, and they talk about it being a less stressful real-time game. I don't know exactly what that means, but if it can appeal to people that hate real-time games because of that stress, then that makes me interested. I quite like the stress, but if it means there's more of a focus on decision-making, then I'm definitely intrigued by that. There's so many things to love about this. I love the theme and just this is exactly my type of game, so I really hope they pull it off. That's A Tale of Pirates.
This Tabletop Together tool says your Essen wishlist is going to cost 800 euros. How are you planning to pay for it? That's it, I'm making the call. I hope you've got a pink ponytail.
No.
If you don't do this, I'll release that tape of you saying you hate local game stores, especially the friendly ones.
Essen better be worth it.
Those are the top 20 most anticipated games at Essen 2017, and it was a tough list to make. Really, there's over 100 games that I'm excited by, and I may try and talk about them soon in a live Q&A before I go to Essen. Also, make sure to look out for my Essen haul, all the games that I pick up when I come back from Essen. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel or supporting me on Patreon. I'm John Purkis, thanks for watching.